That's a look at the dailies for you this morning. But you may have seen that story about the NLC meeting with the federal government, which ended in a deadlock. Well, we'd like to speak with someone who knows what transpired, just in case you were wondering, how did this happen? And we have joining us this morning, Joe Ajero, who is Vice President of the NLC. Good morning. Thank you for joining us on Sunrise Daily.
Good morning.
Well, we know that Labour had that round of meetings with the federal government some months back, and then you suspended that strike. But now this one, still maybe concerning the same issues. But what exactly played out? Because we expect meetings like that to end fruitful, but it seemed this one did not end fruitful at all. What exactly transpired?
Well, I think when the action was suspended a few months back in October precisely, there was some basic understanding, that some of them may have not been open to Nigerians, among which is the issue of that prices of petroleum products can no longer be increased until the refineries are, the turnaround maintenance from refineries are completed, and that we can't allow petroleum products to be import-driven. It was on the basis of that, that we said there will be local refining. And then some agreements were on palliatives, tariff of electricity committee, and they are still working. Now, we had a series of meetings fixed ahead to make sure we monitor this process. While that was on, then somebody went behind and increased the same prices of petroleum products and invited us to a meeting. So while at the meeting, we have to return to status quo. The person has to reduce that price before we go into further discussion. That was exactly what happened.
Hear what the Honorable Minister of Labour and Employment also said right now.
We had already a circulated agenda for the meeting. They have it. And in a meeting, if you want to change the agenda, everybody will agree. That is how meetings proceedings go. So there was no consensus addendum on that. And we felt that the item of increase in PMS, having been listed at all as an additional item, will have satisfied everyone.
Yeah, so Mr. Ajero, it seems that explanation doesn't hold water with you. You're not satisfied the fact that it was included at all?
No. Clearly, at meetings, both parties draw the agenda or they accept what is drawn. You don't railroad us into an already prepared agenda. He should testify that we wrote him later when that issue of increase in pump price of petroleum products came up. And he didn't put it until we started discussing it. He wanted us to go and discuss palliatives and all those other issues when this one is pending. And we said, no, let's trash this. It was at that point that what really happened at that meeting happened. And at last he is saying that the meeting will reconvene within 24 hours. He can't tell us when to reconvene. So those are issues that we need to put together and see the mode of doing things in this country.
Concerning the whole idea of deregulation, what representation did government give to you at that last meeting? What's in public domain is that deregulation has come to stay and that the price of fuel will be determined by market forces. Is that an understanding you had at that last meeting that you talked about?
We didn't accept deregulation until we conclude the issue about local production. We didn't accept the regulation that will be import-driven. That never happened. Now, but we agreed that if you are going to deregulate, you can't equally regulate in a deregulated sector. That was clear to everybody, every Dick and Harry. And then we didn't say government or its agencies or the NNPC should announce prices. If they have deregulated, they can't announce prices. The prices in Owerri can be the same thing as Sokoto. It can be the same thing as Lagos in a deregulated market. So they can't go into the issue of price fixing and tell us that they have deregulated. I think they are not fair to what is being discussed, or maybe any of the parties seem not to understand the concepts of deregulation and regulation.
Well, Mr. Ajero, one of the things that I also recall the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources saying is that the whole idea of all of those structures that sustained the deregulation, the regime of subsidy, such as Petroleum Trust Fund, the PPPRA, and all of those ones, would still be in place until the Petroleum Industry Bill has been ratified and signed into law. Are you of that same understanding, or you think, so in that light, if you agree that that should be, you know, where do we go from here?
Well, I think even the PPRA never met for them to even announce the current price. The government has these agencies in place, but they are not following them. You see a situation that we wake up and hear something, you know, and it happens day in, day out. Even in the existence of those structures, the last 3 or 4 price increases, whatever, did not pass through the process.
That's the thing, Mr. Ajero. That's the thing that I think government was trying to communicate, at least that's the understanding a number of people may have, that since government has deregulated, there is no significant relevance for a PPPRA that determines the prices of fuel simply because it is an institution that sustained the subsidy regime.
No, the issue of PPPRA was a product of collective agreement as we are discussing. Labour has representatives there. All other agencies have, employers have representatives there. All those agencies, if there is need, compelling need, you know, to stop them or to destabilize them or to cancel them and move into a dictatorial market by either an NPC or that should have happened. But they can't be there, and the law permits them to go through this process and decide what should be the price. And you say you have jettisoned them without any law, you know, abrogating them. I don't think that is true.
You know, this meeting hasn't held, excuse me, that meeting hasn't held as it ought to hold, and this is where we are now. What are the options, and what are Nigerians supposed to look forward to within the next coming days?
Well, Labour has to meet with its organs. The last exercise we had its own interpretations, and we were painted black before Nigerians. We insisted, and even our colleagues from NUPENG were able to prove that there were even containers of equipment for the turnaround maintenance, and to, you know, get our refinery to start working. And it was on the basis of that we said, okay, now let's go into this and let's take some time to repair the refineries. And then the agreements were signed with timeline for meetings. You know, and this is one of such meetings that were fixed before now. And when they increased, a letter was written to them that you are violating what we agreed. And when we met this time around, you know, it was another story. So Labour will meet definitely, you know, within some days now, and to equally see whether we have been fairly treated and Nigeria.
Just a very quick one, Mr. Ajero. Just a very quick one, very, very short and straight to the point, 5 seconds. Is a strike an option on the table?
Well, strike has always been an option where agreements were not reached, clearly. And you know that we had a suspended strike revolving around this. So if the agreement is not obeyed, we can reactivate the strike.
We have to thank you very much, Mr. Ajero.
I will not preempt the organs of the Congress in the decision they are going to take.
We understand. Well, we have to thank you very much for your time this morning, Joe Ajero, Deputy President of the Nigeria Labour Congress. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.